Oh, hello there. When did you sneak in? I take it you're here for a podcast. Off the Rails podcast, that is. Well, you're in the right place. Welcome in everyone to episode 35 of the Off the Rails podcast, in which I, the offrailgamer, talk about video games and video game adjacent topics. Now I must apologise for the last two episodes I put up, of which one was late and the other was rushed. I'm hoping to set things right today with a much more carefully planned out podcast for you. First off then, I'll cover the admin. Off the Rails goes out on Spotify, Amazon Music and YouTube. Also on YouTube, I try to post regular content, although I've not put anything up for a while now. And I have TikTok, Twitch and X. We have a semi-regular segment on the show called Listeners' Whispers, in which I read any messages I've received from the listeners at home, who I've rather charmingly given the name Orgonauts. Orgonauts? Where'd that come from, I hear you ask? Well, think Jason and the Argonauts. Only the initials for offrailgamer are ORG or org. Argonauts? Orgonauts. Cute, isn't it? Anyway, if you'd like to contribute to the show, please send your musings and questions to my email address, offrailgamer@gmail.com, and I could be reading them out in the next show, as long as you 1. Keep it clean, this is a family-friendly show, and 2. Aren't too mean. I won't be reading your comments out if you're just being abusive towards me, or anyone else for that matter. Now, please cast your attention to the podcast episode description, and you will see that I've included my email address along with links to all my social media accounts. You're very welcome. And with that all out of the way, let's now move to our first regular segment, What I've Been Playing Recently. It's the part of the show in which I talk about the games I've been playing recently. I broke out my analog pocket to play some Sonic the Hedgehog, but after a few frustrating runs, I found that I needed to play something to calm my nerves, and I found a game on the Game Boy Advance so effective it almost put me to sleep. Saying that, it's a game I'm sure I would have loved when I was about 3 years old or so, as I was a huge fan. Of whom? Well, to be honest, it brings me some shame to admit that I played Postman Pat and the Greendale Rocket, a game that you can't lose. Pat doesn't have a number of lives, you just keep going until you've completed the game, which won't take long at all. There is a small variety of things to do though, with the main levels being a platformer. You'll also drive Pat's van in a race against the clock, and then you'll have a mini-game such as sorting the mail, flying a kite, or catching butterflies as Pat's black and white cat, Jess. The story to the game is that the Greendale Rocket, a steam train, has seen better days. You don't do anything repairs related in the game, but by collecting mail in each level, the train magically gets a makeover by the end, and everyone lived happily ever after. Look, I can't badmouth this game. I'm really not the demographic it would have been aimed at. Besides which, it's not broken, and, being possible to complete in well under half an hour, it won't leave you wanting to pull all your own teeth out. If you want to talk bad games though, I loaded up Soccer Life 2 on the PS2. The game box suggested you'd be simulating the life of a soccer player, that's football to you and I, managing their affairs both on and off the pitch. But when I started playing, I very quickly realised I had no idea what I was doing. You don't get to play the matches, you can either watch them or skip them, and skipping them altogether doesn't seem to make any difference. Your team will still win. I went into the private life menu and told him to go out, but he wouldn't, so that was that. And there aren't even any training minigames like penalties or free kicks. I'd say this has to be a contender for being one of the worst games ever released. It's right up there with Play It Video Poker and Blackjack. But don't worry, I did play something that's actually good. For PS1, I popped in Rayman, a game I haven't played in over 20 years, and I'll tell you something, it looks as gorgeous today as it ever did. The cartoony art style has definitely made this one a timeless classic. Although the difficulty can be punishing at times, it doesn't really feel unfair at any point. It's a game you can definitely become familiar with through practice, much like the old 8-bit era Sonic the Hedgehog games. Oh look, we've come full circle! But we're not done yet. I continued playing Minecraft in my private peaceful server, and I'm happy with that. I really don't feel that having creepers and zombies running around at night enhances the experience for me at all. I just want to create things and have some fun, honestly. I built a pyramid, a castle, and a house of bricks. Good luck to any big bad wolf after the hairs on my chinny chin chin. And well, that's kinda what I got up to in Minecraft. But even still, we're not done yet. Because after several months of turning my attention to other games, I remembered I was a good chunk of the way through playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm playing as Alexios because that's who I first played as when I picked the title up, and I just think Cassandra makes a better villain. She's truly fierce. I've been sailing around the ancient Greek world on the Adrastea, completing numerous different side quests, even some that I've never played previously. Honestly, AC Odyssey is an absolutely mammoth game with so much to do, I'd be awestruck to meet anyone who really has completed it all. In an effort to minimise spoilers for anyone who still has this on their to-play list, to whom I must ask, what's keeping you? Play it, why don't you? I'll just say that one of the things I've been occupying my time with has been hunting cultists. There are only a handful left on the map now, but I need to continue in the main story to find them. I did come across a neat questline though, which ended with me storming a fortress full of cultist guards with the objective of taking them all out. It was a mission that really made me feel like a boss, showing off all the abilities I've acquired as I've leveled up my XP, which is what us cool kids say instead of experience points. And I reckon that's enough of what I've been playing recently. So let's see what's going on in the wider world of gaming, shall we? I've been scouring the internet for some gaming news and come across something that I totally missed when it was first announced, and that is the upcoming release of a new Civilization game, being Civilization 7. Apparently, the release had been announced for 2025, but now Take-Two has narrowed that window down, and we should be seeing it before the end of March. Now, I loved Civilization 4 and Civilization 5, but I must confess I still haven't played enough of 6 to have gotten the hang of the mechanics that were newly introduced for it. I'll certainly keep an eye out for a gameplay trailer closer to its release, and can't wait to see what people have to say about it when they get to play. It's one that I might pick up, though I think that will be heavily dependent on price tag. Roblox has been banned in Turkey due to concerns around online child abuse. It's not a game that I've ever played myself because I'd always assumed its intended audience is kids, and looking at screenshots, it's just never piqued my interest. Anyway, apparently gamers can message each other or something, and gamers being gamers, players have been harassing and abusing one another, which is the primary reason I much prefer playing offline modes. Other people can always be relied on to ruin things, can't they? And lastly, there's currently a humble bundle of 12 Capcom games compatible with Steam Decks. These include Street Fighter, some Dead Rising games, the Ace Attorney trilogy as well as Ace Attorney Chronicles, and Ghost Trick Phantom Detective. Apparently, the combined price of all these games would ordinarily amount to more than £300, but you can pick up the lot for just shy of £30. I think the bundle is available until 28th of August, so you'd best hurry if you're interested. Which should just about do us for gaming news this week, and wasn't it refreshing to have some interesting stories to digest for a change? Now, I maybe shouldn't be doing this, but I think it's the perfect time for a listener's whispers, don't you agree? Hi, offrailgamer. Just found your podcast and still need to go back and listen to your earlier episodes. I had a look at your YouTube too and checked out the Season of Scare playlist. Hope you try some really scary games this year. I'd love to see your reaction to something like the Outlast Trials. Well, anyway, it was cool to find a new gaming channel. Looking forward to new content. Short and sweet, and that message was left by Dunky the Moose, who I think we can all safely assume resides in South Shields, a part of the country I will have to visit one day. Well, maybe once all the troubles have settled down anyway. I hope you're staying safe up there, Dunky, and of course, I hope all my Orgonauts are staying safe. But without wishing to dwell on real-world events too long, let's address video games. Now, Outlast Trials, eh? Ugh! I've seen people playing that online and had to pack a change of trousers just as a spectator. I'll not rule it out entirely, but considering my heart rate used to increase when I heard the clatter of the tea tray carried by Lara Croft's stalker butler in Tomb Raider 2, I think it's something I'll have to build myself up to. Thank you for checking out my content though. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for your message. Now, if you're listening at home and wondering how Dunky the Moose got his comments read out, well, it's quite simple, really. Just look to the podcast episode description and you'll find my email address, offrailgamer@gmail.com, where you can write to me. Just keep it clean and don't be mean. Which means, it's now time for the main part of the show. Picture the scene. You wake up and open your eyes. Above you is a night sky filled with more stars than you've ever seen in your life. There can't be much in the way of light pollution here. Here? Where exactly is here? You've got a cracking headache and can't seem to remember anything. You sit up and begin to look around you. This sure is a strange landscape, a totally alien world. And just what in the world of all that's holy is that over there? Dickens, maybe next time you should take more water with it. I didn't say anything in our earlier segment of what I've been playing recently, but at the weekend I jumped back into No Man's Sky, though not in VR this time. It still looks absolutely amazing. A couple of differences from playing in VR as standard. This time I was playing in a third-person perspective and could actually see my character, but also getting around is a little more hassle as you need to sprint everywhere rather than placing an icon where you want to land and effectively teleporting. Nonetheless, I have been having a blast with NMS again and wanted to share with you my story so far. So, as already covered, I awoke on an alien planet with no recollection of how I got there. Equipped only with my mining laser, I set to work quickly gathering elements and minerals that would help me on my way. Fortunately, I awoke on a sodium-rich planet which I'll need to recharge my exosuit's life support to protect me if I get caught out in a storm. Then, knowing what's coming, after all this ain't my first rodeo, I collected carbon, which I'll be able to use to recharge my mining laser, and ferrite dust, which we'll come back to in just a moment. Now it's time to find out what we're doing here and see if we can't find a way off this planet. And would you believe it, I think we're in luck. Look over there, a spaceship. Sure, it's seen better days. In fact, there's not much functioning on it right now. And it's on fire too, and I don't mean how the young people say something's lit or fire or skibbity toilet. No, the ship is literally on fire, like old school cool fireman Sam on fire. Well, straight off we can craft a metal sheet out of the ferrite dust we've collected, and we can use that to patch a hole or two here and there. But we also need a hermetic seal, whatever that is. I think we may need some help on that one. Oh, what's this? The ship's systems are back online, and the logs suggest we check out a beacon signal. It's a little bit of a trek away. Star Trek, if you will. No, seriously, it's just a bit of a high comfort. On arrival, we can interact with the beacon, which will save all progress made so far. There are also 2 buildings. Well, they're more pods really. There's something about them reminds me of the temporary classrooms we had at primary school. Not something everyone will be able to relate to, I'm sure, but I hope you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, this is the location where we'll get our hands on the hermetic seal we need, along with some kind of fauna exhibit, and a whole load of nanites. I assume they'll come in handy later. Now, charge! Back to the ship. Hurry, 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 just as fast as my little legs and my jetpack will take me. Fix everything up. We need to fuel the engines. Ah, yes, No Man's Sky is a proper kind of simulation, mixing science fiction with science fact. But don't worry, we'll gloss over this next bit so we can get to the fun part. Lift off! Finally, we get our new ship off the ground and up, up and away, through the clouds, through the atmosphere, and out into the vastness of space. Now, if you're lucky, you'll stumble into an asteroid belt, which seems an odd thing to say, but if you blast them with your ship's guns, you might just collect a load of precious metals from them, including gold and silver. You get to test your new acceleration, engage thrusters, and even jump to warp speed, which gets you around the solar system in no time. But for now, you intercept a potential distress call from back down on your starting planet. We better go and see what's up. Or down, I suppose. From up here in space, at least. Yes, let's go and see what's going down back at the planet's surface. We get down there, but I think the log was scrambled. I'll ask you to forgive me if I get this next bit in a muddled order. It's all a bit of a blur. Oh, and yeah, I was going to say that if all this sounds like the game is holding your hand a lot, I'd say that the early game disguises the tutorial in the plot. But don't be mistaken, nothing's entirely spelled out for you, and you do still need to figure things out for yourself. I remember on my very first playthrough, nothing made a lot of sense to me, and it turned me off from playing for years until I jumped into VR and was awed into giving it a proper chance. Anyway, scrambled message. Let's go build a computer to decipher it, and while we're at it, we can build a base to hide away from the elements, particularly useful during any storms, but not, in my opinion, so useful as our next upgrade, the terraforming tool, which allows us to mine mineral deposits such as copper, uranium, and salt, and more importantly, we can tunnel, which makes caving less of a trial. I'm ashamed to admit that at the start of this playthrough, I went exploring a cave and got horribly lost. I even ended up dying in there. Once I got the terraforming tool, I was able to tunnel down to my grave underground and reclaim everything I'd gathered up until that point, though. So, we build the base, and we can start researching new upgrades, including a teleport for your base. Not that you can teleport anywhere just yet, because you don't have the coordinates for any other gates yet. And I say yet, because that's your next step. Back in your spaceship, back into space, and this time we're heading for the nearest space station. Here we can trade and sell some of those precious metals we collected earlier. We can also talk to various researchers and merchants. And we can find a teleport which we can now use to get back down to our base rather than flying the old-fashioned way. Don't worry, your ship will be beamed back down with you. Before leaving the space station, you'll pick up another garbled message to decipher at your base computer. It will be more coordinates taking you to another abandoned structure. Inside you'll find everything's covered in a strange, viscous slime. Even the console that you're invited to interact with. Doing so will get you some antimatter, which you'll need to build fuel for your new hyperdrive engine. And now things will start to get really fun. Because now, not only can you nip about your solar system at warp speed, you can open up your galactic map and go visit the next closest star system and all its orbiting planets. So you'll touch down and do a little exploring. I think you're following some new coordinates, and I want to say you're brought to... Wait. You might be brought to a massive fallen freighter here, though I might have muddled the last 2 locations we visited. Either way, I should have said that at the slime location, don't touch the eggs outside. If you do, a horde of dangerous aliens will erupt forth to hunt you. You can try and fight back, but good luck, because I don't think they stop spawning. If you do disturb them, I'd say your best bet is to hightail it back to your ship and get the heck out of Dodge. Now we're nearing the point as far as I've gotten so far at the time of writing the script, besides which I think it will make a good point to pause, but I've got one more adventure to tell of before we part ways. So there I was, on a new planet, in a new solar system, and I was ready to visit space again. I took off and left the atmosphere when I received a transmission from someone claiming that I'd abandoned them. With that, 2 spaceships warped in close and started opening fire on me. My shields were down, but thankfully my craft was more manoeuvrable than theirs, and I came away victorious from my 2-on-1 dogfight with these bullies. They should have picked on someone their own size, rather than whittle old me. I scanned for the source of the transmission accusing me of neglect and headed towards it, perhaps to see if I could make amends, perhaps to duke it out with someone holding a grudge over something I had no recollection of. But the planet in question was diabolically mountainous, and it was difficult to land close to the coordinates I'd locked onto. Oh, bum. I guess we're getting out on foot again. Only, as it happens, that really didn't matter, because what should I find but a crashed and abandoned spaceship, no less, and a better one than my current vehicle to boot. With no one around to stop me, I fixed it up, refueled, and took off once again, this time towards a new space station. Only my trip was interrupted before I got there. Seemingly out of nowhere, something massive appeared. An anomaly. An anomaly that looks remarkably like some kind of space station. But get this one's not just inhabited by NPCs. I mean, there are NPCs you can talk to and trade with, but there are also other players milling about as well. And I understand that when you reach the anomaly, you can finally team up with friends for a multiplayer experience, or you can join forces with strangers if you want, or you can carry on going it alone. You've made it this far, and I'm sure you'll be just fine. Another interesting thing about the anomaly is that you can pick up missions to earn units, the in-game currency. I think from here on out there will still be signals to chase and mysteries to unravel, but going forward we'll be able to choose a profession and forge our own path forward. From what I understand, you can choose to be a miner and aim to eventually get a mining vessel, or you could be a hunter, I think science research mission, or even a space pirate. And while space piracy sounds like fun, I don't know if I'd prefer a different form of employment. Besides which, I really want to find out who's waiting for me among the stars, and what the significance is of the number 16. So no doubt I'll continue following all the beacons and signals I stumble across, and see just how much of the galaxy I can get around. I recall something about there being billions of star systems, and the game taking place in a full-scale galaxy. Anyways, as I haven't got any further in the game just yet, I'm going to leave things here. Thank you so much for listening. Off the Rails will be back in 2 weeks' time, and shock horror, I might get something up on YouTube before then. Well, we'll see on that front. Bye bye, my Argonauts.